Hopefully I'm doing it right. And I think we'll get started. I just wanted to just do a quick round table with, sorry, my dog is acting up. So if I seem distracted, I don't know what her problem is. Gave her a rawhide. This is what I was on a call with Debbie last night. This is what we went through last night as well. Go lie down. Oh, I see what happened. Can you give me 1 second, guys?
Are you feeling better this week, Dawn? You're on mute.
Enrique Telltale, look at me, I'm glowing.
You look great.
You look great. You look a lot more sparkly than last
I do.
week.
I am. I miraculously recovered. Like when I needed to like be on, the universe came through and I was healed.
Yeah. That's awesome.
I did my part. So yes.
Okay. So I thought
Thank you very much.
I thought we'd just start by just saying your name and tell us your favorite thing that you love about fall. Even though it doesn't feel like fall in the Twin Cities today, but anybody want to start? Oh, and tell us where you're from too, so we know where everybody is located in the world.
Right now, right?
Right now, at this time.
At this point. Well, I'm Nancy Gerber, and I'm from Plymouth, Minnesota right now. And I am, my favorite thing about fall, I guess, is really the like 60s and 70s and crisp days and having your window open at night. There's a few things.
Thank you, Nancy.
Yeah.
Debbie, do you want to go?
Yeah, I was just going to say, I'll go next.
I was intuiting that.
Yeah. Good. I'm Debbie, and right now I'm in Robbinsdale. That's where I live. And I love sweatshirt and jean weather and the smell of the leaves as they're decomposing, right? That's what they're doing. But I love that smell.
Thank you. Margie?
Yes, Margie Olson. I'm in Minneapolis, Minnesota. I'm torn. Fall, I used to love fall because it was school starting. So that was just, yay. I just love summer so much. And we just had a fabulous summer in the weirdest year ever. And so I'm just trying to enjoy fall and how beautiful it is and try not to think about what it's not.
Thank you. Dawn, do you want to go?
So Nancy, I'm in Plymouth too.
Oh, all right.
Yeah.
Where do you live, Dawn?
I'm off of County Road 47 in Vicksburg.
Okay. I'm off of Zachary and 40 and Rockford Road.
Okay, know exactly where that is.
Yeah.
What I love about fall, that I don't know if it's Indian summer, if it's winter, is it spring? Not sure exactly what it is, but I just love the change of seasons. That's why I live in the Midwest. So whatever that is, and I know we have about 157 seasons here, and I just try and flow with them all. So I think I've had 3 wardrobe changes today.
Totally. Thanks, Dawn. Susan, welcome. Would you like to go next?
Hello. I'm in Minneapolis, and I think my favorite thing about fall is definitely the colors changing. I remember the fall of 2014 was the brightest, intense colors, so much so that I went and took photographs of it. So I'm always waiting to see how this one tree in my neighborhood is going to change each fall. So I'm always looking forward to that tree.
Awesome, thank you. Renee?
Coming to you from Middletown, Delaware, where we don't get necessarily the colors that you guys all get. And prior to moving here a year ago, I lived in the Berkshires of Massachusetts, where New England colors I really miss. the colors. And Susan, like you, I had a particular tree that I would drive by, and in the fall, it would be the brightest tree. And every year I would drive by it. And one year, just as it started to light, we had a bad storm, and all the leaves fell off. And it was like, we were robbed. We were robbed of the best tree.
I have the same reaction.
Oh my God. Anyway, I love the fall colors.
Thanks, Renee. Cal?
I'm Kelly. I'm in St. Paul, and I live in a great artist complex, but I happen to live down, so I never know what it's like outside. So I forgot that it was fall. I hear it's nice outside, but I never get out. That's one of my things I'm going to start using this class to honor myself a little bit more and be out in the world. I wish I could be at your event tomorrow, Dawn. Really wish I could be at your event. But my favorite thing about fall is that it's really my new year. It's always been sort of my new year. I don't ever feel new beginnings in January. Winter just goes like this for me. But September always feels like new beginnings. So that's what I love about fall.
Thank you, Kelly. So I'm Sharon. I'm also in Plymouth, Minnesota. So 3 of us are from Plymouth.
Oh, Plymouth.
Living in Plymouth, living the dream.
Sounds like a girl's date.
Right?
Got all this coaching and healing nearby. We need to try, ladies.
And my favorite thing about fall, you've already mentioned the colors and the Christmas. I love the cooler weather and putting on sweaters. I love the smells. I love watching there's Jan. I love watching the leaves change. It's my favorite time of year. And September and October are my 2 favorite months. Also, new beginnings, Kelly, I feel the same way. I think it's something like maybe from going to school, or my birthday's in September, so it feels like a new year starting. But very much so. And we now have Jan. She's connecting to audio. We'll give her 1 second, and then we'll have her let us know when you're ready, Jan. Or we can come back.
She may be a little delayed with the internet.
And you can maybe remind her of what we're saying, or what the assignment
I don't know. Jan, can you hear us?
Yeah, it's taken a while here.
Yeah, she doesn't have the greatest internet connection where she is, so we'll just come back to her. Now she's gone. Oh, no, she's back. So I wanted to just, I'm just going to stop the recording briefly.
I think you're cacophonous, I think words can really say more than just, you're being really loud. I love words. I think words are important. But I don't know about you guys, but these last few months have really said to me that I have to think very clearly and carefully about what words I use. Because they can really open up a window into where I'm coming from and some blind spots I might have. And it's really been a growthful experience over these last few months about what I may and may not realize my words are. Sticks and stones can hurt, break my bones, but words can never hurt me. Yeah.
Not true.
Not so true.
Thank you, Kelly. Debbie.
What really stood out for me in this chapter is the words black magic. And that words, because words can cast a spell. Words I heard as a child, like he was talking in here, somebody can say something and it triggers me right back to childhood. Like there was a thing here, somebody called a girl ugly. Somebody called me ugly on a bus when I was in high school. And that stuck with me my whole life. you know, and that cast a spell. And so this idea of black magic is just really stood out for me.
Yeah, and that's actually one of my other questions that I have is some examples of where words have had a negative impact on you that you can recall, that come to mind.
Mm-hmm.
I'll go. I remember, Jan, I'll get you next. I remember being told on several different occasions that I laughed too loud. My laugh was too loud. Then I also had people tell me that my laugh was infectious, in a good way, not a COVID way, in a good way. But it took me many years to overcome the "you laugh too loud," which I think is also an anti-feminist judgment that people were making on me. But yeah, that one it took a long time to just embrace my big, full belly laugh, as loud as it is. Jan, how about you? Oh, we still can't hear you. There you go. No. Nope, sorry. It looks like you're unmuted. Are your headphones plugged in?
She's got a double blind mute going on.
But you
Does she
can hear
wanna
us?
type?
Yeah, do you want to type? Put it in the chat? The chat button in the middle of your screen? If she can see it. Well, we'll come back to Jan.
Yep.
We'll see if we figure out Margie.
Yep, so while she's doing that, real quickly, I'm the youngest of 4 kids, so everybody was always older than me. So I have this memory of just 1,000 different ways that I was told that I'm not ready. I don't know how to do A, B, and C. I'm not old enough. I'm not tall enough. I'm not developed enough. Felt like a cacophony, actually. And to have to now at age 60, you'd have to stop and go, you're probably old enough now. You're probably ready now. You're probably okay. But those messages still, in my day-to-day, it's very, very powerful.
Mm-hmm. Jan, any luck?
Nope.
Oh, she sent in,
Oh, did she say something?
I'm reading Kelly's comment.
Oh yeah, Kelly, you were artsy fartsy. You were called artsy fartsy.
In a really negative way.
Yeah, what
By
the
the
hell?
chairman of my board when I was running a theater. I'm not going to listen to you artsy fartsy types. And he meant it in the most negative way. And I had always been proud of being creative, but he fired me soon after that because of his, he was Mr. Potter.
Has
Here's
come.
Jan. She said,
Sometimes people use humor to communicate, but it's how that humor is used with words. I've done that throughout my life, and I realized I need to be more aware of even the words of humor need to be chosen carefully. Absolutely.
Yeah.
That is a great point. Thank you, Jan. Because I think when we're not, I think part of being impeccable for me is being aware of what you're saying and being thoughtful about it. And so yes, that humor, and sometimes even though we don't realize it maybe consciously at first, we're using that humor to actually put other people down instead of lifting them up. So it's very subtle. But yes, I think that's something we have to be aware of in our interactions with other people. And also realizing that which will get more into our don't take anything personally in the next week, but other people are using that humor to make themselves feel better, right? It doesn't have anything to do with what they're saying.
yeah.
So yeah, thank you, Jan. Sorry we can't hear you.
president.
Nancy, go ahead.
So, and Kelly knows a little bit about this story, but I moved from a place where I was very accepted to a town in high school, my first year of high school, where I was not accepted, and had to kind of deal with being rejected pretty much by most people. And so words like, I would want to partner up with, the teacher would say, partner up with this somebody, and then I'd turn to somebody and they'd say, well, not with you.
Oh,
That kind of stuff. So I dealt with that with high school, but yet in a way that made me stronger. And I left high school kind of feeling like a loser. Didn't go to prom, didn't really participate in much at all, other than I found Kelly and some other friends who we all were kind of, I won't use the term loser, but that we were all just sort of alone in the world, and we got together and kind of formed a bit of a relationship.
Smart girls. We were smart.
Yes. We had fun. But it made me stronger, and I don't regret any of that. I left high school going, by God, I am leaving this place and I am going to be myself and I'm going to find my people. And I did on my graduation weekend. So, it's just, words can be destructive, but they can also help you gather that strength that you need, and maybe help that ego a little bit, where you're maybe a little too, I don't know, your ego gets a little too much of itself, and then you're able to kind of understand other people better because of what maybe they're experiencing as well, and knowing that how your words affect other people. I'm very aware. I'm aware of that. I know that I have used words in a very negative way at times, but I'm learning. Just like Kelly said, it's learning more and more.
Absolutely. So related to that, Ruiz talks about the concepts of white and black magic and spells. And this is really interesting because in the time that we're in right now, I had never noticed this before in reading this book, and like I said, it's 4 or 5 times, whatever it's been. In the discussions that we're having in the nation and globally about race and color and things like that, I was like, is that not a right way to talk about it? I don't know if that struck anyone else.
It really triggered me.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. I had not noticed it before, but I'm like, oh, so there's awareness. There's something about being impeccable there that I was just aware of. And in fact, when I put the questions together, I said, I prefer to call this positive and negative magic spells, and not assigning a color necessarily. And it comes out of a long tradition. I did some Googling research and things. So I think we take his word with a grain of salt because we know he has a beautiful open heart and did not mean it that way. And we're not going to make assumptions about him. But anyway, so when we talk about the spells, what do you think about this idea of being a magician and that you're casting spells on each other? I mean, I think we've already talked about some of it, how those spells stick with us. They can also be good spells, positive spells though. Are there examples that you have maybe where someone said the right thing to you, cast a positive spell on you with the power of the word? Debbie?
This actually happened with Ron. He was living in Germany, and when we first reconnected, we dated in high school, and when we first reconnected, he found me on Facebook. And he said, I saw your face and the world stopped for me.
Oh, wow.
Right?
That's so great.
I know. So that was like, yeah.
And that one stuck with you, obviously.
Yeah. That was a good
awesome.
one. Things my mother said, not so good.
Right. We'll get to the mother thing in a little bit, the family thing. Renee, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say that when we put it in the scope of types of spells, it seems to me probably more often than not, the spells are more unintentional than intentional. Unless it's someone like our president or something that can really wield power. But anyway, because when you were talking about the spells and how we can be casting, positive and negative ones, I had an image of Mickey Mouse during the Sorcerer's Song, how it was someone that was just wielding all this stuff and not really in control of it, but just, whatever's coming out's coming out. And I think that I can do that sometimes, like I might intentionally, like either I think I'm being funny or I think I'm, and I'm saying something and I might not realize that I'm actually zinging someone or inflicting something. Or, saying something positive and not know how much it might be lifting them, but I guess the key would be being able to learn to be, to have intentions behind our words and to use them appropriately.
Go ahead, Margie.
Well, and I think that speaks to the unconscious is always, he talks about dreaming and, but the unconscious is always alive and, 60 to 1,000 to 100,000 thoughts a day. They're autopilot and they're making stuff happen. It's one of my challenges of this book though, is when he uses language like that, talking about magic, I feel like it's a bit of an obstacle for some people who then immediately reject it as, well, there's no way what he's saying is true, ergo, forget it. When he's just describing something that literally gets addressed in quantum physics, just the idea of matter and energy and what's happening continuously. If I wanted to pick up that chair with my mind, I could, but I'd have to believe it, and there's a lot of other forces going on. So when he gives an example, like if you see someone with cancer and a year later they'll have it, someone will immediately reject all of this and miss that what he's saying is truthful. It's just there's a lot more to it. I just wanted to say that I was curious that the chapter is so short. These chapters are so short. And I was looking for, how am I going to know I'm impeccable with my word? I'm always trying to be honest, whatever, but he really doesn't say much. He talks about gossip, doesn't really say much else. And then as we're talking, I'm thinking it's because it's literally every single thing I'm preparing to say, everything that every viewpoint I'm crafting to share. There's just a lot to think about. What am I meaning? What do I want? What might the effects be? There's just a lot in something so simple.
And that's what's really amazing. About all the agreements, but they do seem so simple. But then there's so much underground beneath them that that's why it's great to have this kind of discussion about it, to get because sometimes you could just read and go, oh, okay, I'll be a good person and I won't lie. Well, that's not what he's talking about. It's not at all what he's talking about. He's talking about catching ourselves before we're impeccable. And what do you, for all of you, what does impeccable mean? Being impeccable with your word. Obviously, telling the truth. Jan, can we hear you? Ask to unmute, it says. Still can't hear you. Darn it. Do you want to type again? Oh, here we go. It's our human condition, she wrote. It's part of our life's journey to vibrate at a higher level with the positive. Unfortunately, the darkness of the world oftentimes creeps in easily. That's where those of us who attend Unity are blessed, our Unity community that we talk about quite often, to have our journey of awareness more open to the positive. Thank you. Yes. Renee.
I just have to say, oh, do you guys hear an echo?
No.
Okay, I did. Anyway, I was really shocked with this chapter. I was shocked because the definition of impeccable is nothing that I thought it was. I always thought impeccable, I've always heard it used with respect to he's an impeccable dresser, or
Mhm.
he does things impeccably. And I always thought that it meant perfection. And it does, but not perfection in the way. Being without sin is definitely perfection, but it's not the perfection that for me was always conjured with the word impeccable. I picture a man with, wingtips and, a perfect tie or something. But and notice how I don't see an impeccable woman when I hear the word impeccable.
Oh, interesting.
But I just loved the idea that it's about without sin, and that for me cleared things up. The original Catholic who's open to universal religious thoughts, but who just, to me, being without sin is just doing my best, being the best person I can be. And to be impeccable with my word means don't hurt anyone, don't, help, don't, and then he brings it all to this beautiful end of saying you have to start with you. And Margie, what you were saying about how there's so many things around, well, just all of the thoughts that are in our head every day of how I'll say to myself, well, are you gonna get up today? Are you gonna get on that bike? Are you, you gonna have a bagel again? Whatever instead of just being kind to myself and, you can do this, it's gonna be a great day. That was all very illuminating to me about being impeccable with my word starts with me.
Yes. Yeah, and I think sometimes when people are first reading this, they do think it's about, I tell the truth and I do what I say I'm going to do. But there's a deeper level to this. And he's got a quote on page 31. Let us see what the word impeccability means. It means without sin, that we talked about. A sin is anything that you do which goes against yourself. Everything you feel or believe or say that goes against yourself is a sin. You go against yourself when you judge or blame yourself for anything. Being without sin is exactly the opposite. Being impeccable is not going against yourself. When you are impeccable, you take responsibility for your actions, but you do not judge or blame yourself. And I think that could be really profound in that it starts with self-love. It starts with going inside and accepting who you are and being without sin against yourself. I had another thought, now it's gone. Sorry. What did everybody else think about that? Was that kind of surprising? Don, was that Don raising your hand? Or Susan, go ahead.
Well, I have to, forgive me. I haven't read any of the literature, so I'm kind of coming into this a little.
Worries?
Okay. Impeccable, I think, is the most beautiful word. I just think it's lovely. And I had to be impeccable with myself today. For me, being impeccable is not to react in anger or coming from anger or jumping to conclusions. And I caught myself doing that today. I'm cleaning out some childhood bedrooms, one of which is my stepsister, who even though I've known her my whole life, I wouldn't say we have a close relationship, and she's in Colorado. And I heard from my dad today that she was upset that I had gone in to clean out her bedroom. And it just totally triggered me, like, oh my God, just all the family garbage I'm 53. And I'm like, A, B, C, D, E, I can't believe this. And then I stopped and I said, wait a minute. You are coming from anger. This is not a big deal. It's just stuff. But the time had come not to text I'd been texting with my stepsister. I'm like, I got to pick up the phone and give her a call. And to make a long story short, I left her a message saying, this is what I heard, that you're unhappy. I'm hoping this is a game of a message lost in translation from my 85-year-old father to his 80-year-old sister-in-law, then to my stepsister, and then back to me. So I caught myself, and I was angry in the first draft of my voicemail to my stepsister, so I deleted it and took a pause. And I came back from, I tried again from a position of love. And as it turns out, she responded straight away via text saying, yes, Susan, it was lost in translation. You are totally.
Oh, we got a little freezing frame. Susan, are you still there? Oh, it was
Something
such a
getting
good
lost in
start.
translation.
Lost in translation.
Lost in the ether.
I'm so sorry. My internet connection just dropped out. So
No, you're fine. So your stepsister was saying it was lost in translation.
yep. So it's all good.
That is a beautiful, beautiful example of being impeccable with your word. And also you've kind of like wrapped up the other 4 agreements, the other 3 of the agreements, because you stopped making assumptions, right?
Oh yeah. Oh,
And
jumping to
you were trying not to take it personally, and you were doing your best.
right.
Yep. Yeah, but thank you.
And it's always over the stupidest stuff.
Right. And those family, we'll come back to that, those family relationships. He talks about the mother who comes home from a long day and she's got a headache and her daughter's singing and happy and like just wants to sing at the top of her voice. And she's like, stop it, you have an awful voice. And the girl never sings again. And he talks about how, I don't even know if I have a page, but we hurt the ones we love. We hurt the ones who are dear to us without even realizing that we're doing it, that we're casting negative magic at them. Kelly.
That reminded me of one short story. I did a workshop several years ago about, in fact, Nancy, you might have been there. It was at a home up in Detroit Lakes. And one of my clients was there. She's about 10 years older than me. And she recalled her 2nd grade teacher, 2nd grade, 7 years old, saying, that doesn't look like a pilgrim to her, of a drawing at Thanksgiving or something. She never drew again. And this was a woman who was like 57 years old at the time. She went on to become what Julia Cameron calls a shadow artist. She ran, all sorts of arts programs and everything, but she loved to draw as a child. That one teacher, one phrase, that doesn't look like a pilgrim. Boom, done.
That's the power of the word.
That
is the power.
And, many of us here are coaches. And so, talk about being impeccable with our word and being really conscious of how we say what we say to the people that we are around. It's a responsibility.
It absolutely is. Yeah, especially in that role. So let's talk about, well, it sounds like we've already had some examples. I'm sorry, did somebody else come up? Want to say something? Don, go ahead.
Impeccable with your words to me means showing up and understanding your authentic self. And in my own healing journey, it's very easy to do for me now because I do have a very deep sense of who I am and how I show up. And I no longer allow others to define Dawn Johnson. And like many of us as women, we have people that give us labels. And clearly as a Black woman, I've had my fair share of labels.
Mm-hmm.
Get to that point of truly going inward, and doing your own healing, and then understanding that the self-love process is not all about the, butterflies and unicorns and all the good dope stuff that we tell ourselves, like, oh girl, you're so great. It's really the other stuff. It's the painful stuff. It's the stuff, like many of you have said, that maybe subconsciously or we hurt people's feelings, and because that again, it's intent. It's really impact over your intentions. And when you are truly aware of your language, your words, your energy. And as a healer, I take that, just like Kelly said, I am very serious about my business and how I show up. And it's just, it's empowering yourself that no one else defines that for you. And that, I think, if we all get to that place of true authenticity, of understanding our worth, our value, our joy, understanding our fears and our darkness, the ugly-ish, and deal with that too, because that's a part of being authentic, and that's a part of healing. And in this work, it's so important. So impeccable and with your words and your language and how you show up. I truly believe when you get to that point of true self-love, that, hurting people's feelings, your intentions become, and I don't like the word pure or perfect, because that's a lot of pressure to be pure and perfect.
Exactly.
And I am not about being perfect. That whole perfectionism bar is some ish a man created, and I'm not about that life. So, I'm about the bar that I create for self and my community, not about anyone else's label. So boom, that's my ish.
Wonderful. Thank you. Well said. Margie.
Yeah, that's great, Dawn. And to build on that, when you talk about the authentic self, I think what one of the things that we're saying is shedding all those old agreements. So it's a continuous evolution away from so many of those old agreements. I do have a question though. I think we've all experienced hearing some interesting words out in the world today. Bikers, people on bikes around the lake sniping at each other, people walking by telling stories of something bad that someone did. And it's just really funny. I do a lot of walking and I just hear a lot of people talking some of the same stories that are in my head. This is a challenging time. It's a great opportunity because I don't think we'd be where we are today on the conversations about race and some of those other pieces if it wasn't for this. But this back up against the wall, quarantine, fear, health challenges, we're crabbier. And I do think that's, I have to try even harder to be impeccable with my word.
That's actually one of the discussion questions that I'd put together, because we're just seeing it, I think, in an unprecedented way, like so much of this year. It's unprecedented. There are many societal examples of using words to help or harm others. And we're seeing it in social media. We see it on the news. We see it with lawn signs. We see it with lawn signs being stolen. We see it just all over the place. And Rua says that if we keep practice being impeccable, this really struck me as I reread this chapter for this week. If we practice being impeccable, our minds almost become resilient, so they're not fertile ground for the negative ideas. So in our domestication, our minds are made fertile. We take in everything, right? But if we learn to be impeccable with our word, he's saying we don't take in as much. Do you agree with that? What are you experiencing now? It's a really tough time right now, but I just thought that was really interesting. He doesn't use the word resilience. That's my word, but
Oh, I got one.
okay, go ahead.
I got it. So I am able to discern what is for me and what isn't. It's a gift. So whatever is going on around me, if that ish is not about me, it's not about me. I don't absorb that. Again, we don't have to like absorb and show up for every conversation. We don't have to partake in the negative energy. We actually don't. We do actually have an actual choice not to engage. So just discern, like, that's not for me. And so I really do shut down quite a few conversations with just very simply, that's not for me. And I choose not to engage because, again, I am all about protecting my peace and protecting my energy more now than ever. And for those of us who are in this space as healers, as coaches, as people who are, transformational leaders and all about changing hearts, you can't absorb all of it. So I try to be, very, very selective of my space and where I choose to show up. Again, like this is a choice.
Mm-hmm.
Be in this space
Absolutely.
with you ladies talking about positive stuff and like-minded, where that's how we stay in alignment by being around. I just got off another call. It's like we have to be around our people. And then as we fill each other up, we're able to go out into this crazy ass world and do good things.
Yes. Yes.
It's how we choose to show up, because we don't have the power to change anyone. Zero nada. That is a wasted effort. So it really is about how you choose to show up. And as you evolve, as you are different, as you show up in love, I just, praise God that people change around you or they move out my way.
Absolutely. I love that. And that that's part of the magic that he talks about too, right? It's when you start sending out the positivity, when you have self-love, when you're being mindful, being impeccable with your word, you're spreading positivity. And there is energy exchange that happens there. So people can be impacted by that with the positive as well as the negative. So I think that's very, very true. I noticed it, just a personal example. My mother and I always had a kind of a difficult relationship for a number of reasons I won't go into. But when I was going through a divorce 10 years ago and then working through personal issues over the next few years with a really good therapist, and then I found Unity. That was awesome. And I really was coming into my own authentic self, and I started being my authentic self with her and not taking things she said personally. And our relationship healed before her death. And that was really powerful. And it was that I chose not to engage or tell myself, I stopped believing the agreements. And I just started being myself. And it really healed. I felt very at peace when she passed away in 2014 because I'd done that work. And she didn't change. She was 82 years old. She wasn't going to change. But she did change. That's what's awesome, is that just what I did, there was an effect. Kelly, go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say to what both you and John are saying is in 1990, we attract the people to us that we need to learn from. I really believe that. And 1990, a woman I worked with taught me of something she called SVM, sympathetic vibrational magnetism, which we now know as law of attraction, SVM. And my mother, who is still alive, but just by talking the talk, walking the walk around her, she now catches herself when she goes down the negativity path. I'm not forcing it on her. I don't do that, but I now notice when I'm around people who don't do that anymore. And my mom has started, she'll say, well, no, you taught me that, even though she's very far down the right-wing conservative thing, but still when she's making decisions for herself, so we are doing it just by living our own truth and our own alignment and authenticity, as Dawn said. just
Absolutely.
by being in the world, thinking positive first. When my sister diagnosed with cancer and I sent her a picture of a healthy liver, and she's 5.5 years, and they told her she had 3 months, and it's 5.5 years and she's still going strong. I'm not taking credit for that, but we've been on that path of positivity with her instead of, oh, poor Terry. You know, I just think we model that sympathetic vibrational magnetism. We pull that energy to us and we put it out there. So
Absolutely. Great examples, Kelly. Thank you. Nancy, go ahead.
I use, so I work in human resources. So I work with, I talk with a lot of people that aren't happy about different things. And since this has happened, since the COVID piece and the, you know, the unrest and the riots and all those things that have happened, I mean, I've just noticed that people have become angrier. And so I have my little mantra, and some of you already know that, but I have my little mantra right next to me all the time. I actually have a piece of something from our Unity Words of Wisdom, and it's grace. And so I kind of use that mantra of grace when I'm talking with people that are kind of putting all this anger at me, and I kind of put all that grace back at them, and it helps, you know, and you can feel the shift, so I'm not getting angry and I'm not buying into it, but I can give them that grace and give them that place of safety, maybe, to talk about it.
Beautiful example. Yeah, and you can tell people are agitated. People are angry.
Very, yeah.
It's a rough time. Even just on the, I don't know if you've noticed in driving and the little bit of driving that we do these days. I just drive my 10 minutes to the office when I go in once a week to do what I need to do there. People are freaking nuts. I mean, they're just like all over and angry, and it is. And because of the vibrational shift that's happening, everybody's feeling it, whether they're aware of it or not. And then, of course, people have really hard life circumstances going on right now, too. So it's a combination of the universal energy plus your own personal. So it can be very challenging. Let me see what else I have. Oh, I think we touched on this, but on page 31, Rose says, being impeccable is not going against yourself. I think we talked about this. When you're impeccable, you take responsibility. So, but you don't judge or blame yourself. So how do we stop ourselves from judgment, blame, and criticism of both ourselves and others? Anybody have any tips on that?
Practice.
Practice, okay. Yeah.
And I was just working with my therapist, and I had a huge breakthrough. Again, it had to do with a decades-old relationship. At the time of the riots, of course, people were calling, you know, people were reaching out that you hadn't heard from for like 20 or 30 years, and how are you doing? And he caught me off guard, and I didn't tell him what I wanted to tell, and I hung up and I started beating up on myself. And then I was talking to my therapist about it, and I kind of had a breakthrough when I said, you know, I just don't want to feel this way anymore.
Aha.
And I just had to let it go. Even though I feel that this old boyfriend got one up on me, I just had to say, all right, he got one up on me, and I'm beating myself up, and I just don't want to feel this. I just don't want to do it.
So Susan, that's a great example. You changed an agreement.
I did.
Yeah. So when you had an agreement that this boyfriend, and I'm just
Yeah.
summarizing, of course it's your experience, but he was always going to be one up, or he treated you badly, or you were still hurt. There's some kind of agreement there that you had and you held on to, and you shifted it and you said, I don't believe that agreement anymore.
It was hard. It was hard.
Yeah.
It was hard.
But you did it.
Yeah.
Okay.
And that's the beauty of, and we talked about this last week too, the beauty of the 4 agreements is they can help you to break some of those little, and that's not little, that obviously was significant, but just the agreements that we've built up over the course of our lifetime, when you start adopting the 4 agreements, can help to break those. And by bringing more awareness, by bringing space, by just making you aware of what your thoughts are and that what is an agreement. Because
Right,
sometimes
it was like, when I said I don't want to feel this way anymore, I did feel this feeling of just making space, just to let that, like, just, I just saw all this angst as a glob, and like this glob has just got to go over there now.
beautiful. Yep. Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. Anyone else want to say anything about the judgment, blame, criticism? I think Susan's story was just a great way of saying just letting it go, letting it go. All right, so we've got, it's 8:01, so I don't want to take up too much more time.
Margie, I think had.
Oh, Margie, sorry. I didn't bring my printout, so I'm switching back and forth. I was too
Go ahead,
lazy to
Margie.
walk back upstairs. Go ahead, Margie.
I was just going to say that one of the ways that I've had to try to learn is to switch into observer mode. And maybe the thought of the observer fits with old agreements. The observer knows that that stuff doesn't matter. All those old agreements are based on the premise that things matter, and those things don't matter. Somebody else's perception, somebody's old message, whatever. Just flipping into observer for just long enough to just let the thoughts pass through. And maybe the analogy of the dream helps with that. I'm not sure, that whole idea of a dream, but just trying to step back and notice that this life that I'm having, it's kind of a drama, and I can be okay with it.
Yeah, Renee. Thank you, Margie.
Yeah, Margie, exactly. Because I was going to say that I know it sounds trite, but to just breathe. I think a lot of times words are said in the heat of a moment. They're emotional and they're quite often are making an assumption that someone meant one thing when they really meant another. And so there's so much that's just spewed out, and it's not even on the mark. And that I do, and that I witness other people do, that I'm like, whoa, if you just take a breath and either let the other person speak, or let things unravel naturally, then it might not be important. It might just be crumbs in the bed, or whatever. You can eat crackers in my bed anytime. No, it might just be whatever. But
No,
you know what I mean.
I don't think that's trite at all. I think that's absolutely true. And Susan, you talked about when you deleted the first voicemail message and came back and left another one. I did it. I was upset for no really good reason with my finance person at work about a week and a half or 2 weeks ago, because she just wasn't getting it right. And I'm like, no, it's this. We were trying to do reprice a contract for some additional work. And then I started texting my coworker, my good friend Amy, and I was like, no. Do you ever have trouble with her? Because I'm like, oh, I'm gossiping. I typed the text out and I went, I am not being impeccable with my word, and I deleted it. And I don't need to say that poison about my poor finance person. She's doing the best she can. So it was just taking that. I'm glad I didn't call my coworker Amy to bitch about it, because then the poison would have been out there. So I was able to take a step back. Yeah, that's really interesting too. And I think the gossip thing, we didn't talk much about that. I don't want to keep everybody much longer, but I always, there's a Sufi saying about speaking, I think it's Sufi. Check your words before you say them. Is it true? And Unity people who've heard this, or anybody else who's heard it, is it true? Is it necessary? And is it kind? Those are and that's a really good way to be impeccable, is to do those check marks before you actually speak the words or make the communication. So I'm just going to leave you with one thing, and then we'll talk about next week's assignment. So from that lovely video I was going to show you that I couldn't, maybe we can do it next week. There's one summary which I just love, because I think sometimes people do miss this, that it's not just telling the truth and excuse me, doing what you say you're going to do. And in the video, the narrator says, well, here it is. Being impeccable with your word means more than telling the truth or doing what you say you'll do. Impeccability of the word means to use your energy in the direction of truth and love, beginning with yourself. If you love yourself, you'll express that love in your interactions with other people, and that action will produce a like reaction. And I really love that idea about self-love and speaking kindly to ourselves. So let's embrace that and go forward in our week. Next week, we will talk about the second agreement, which I always have to look up because I mix the second and the third up all the time. You'd think after all these years I would have it right. But the second agreement is don't take anything personally. Yeah, nice face, Margie. This actually is my favorite agreement. When I first read this book many years ago, I started using some of the principles. This is the one that really, really stuck with me. So I'm looking forward to that. So it'll just be chapter 3. And you can look for the song of the week. It's a really interesting one. I'll post it over the weekend. It's by Katie Lang. Nope, not that one. Nope, I'm sorry. That's for, yeah, mix these up. That's for the third agreement. Don't make assumptions. The second agreement is a little pop song we're gonna have out there. So that'll be fun. Did anybody look at the Toby Mac video that I posted?
Yeah, I liked it.
Okay, it's a great song. It's called Speak Life. And he really talks about the power of the word. And the video is very powerful too. So enjoy that. If you haven't gone out there, it's in the lesson plan. You can watch it.
Is he a Christian rock singer? Or?
Yeah, he's Christian rock. Yep. And the Unity Choir's done a couple of his numbers. So he's very, he does a little hip hop, little pop. He kind of mixes it up and just really powerful messages without being judgy, which is good. All right.
No
any last words, thoughts?
Sharon, could you share what you had from the video, that what you just started speaking of to use?
Sure, I can. You want to? I can post that.
Yeah, that'd be great. Thank you.
Dawn, do you mind if I share your event tomorrow? Tell everybody about what you're doing tomorrow.
Of course, that's
Okay.
absolutely, absolutely.
Dawn and her partner, Coach Shay, are doing an in-person event tomorrow. Here, I can share my screen, called More Than an Ally, We Need Accomplices. And this is you can find the details in the, can you see that?
Oh, yeah.
In the, sorry, the kitty is coming in here again. In the village. It's an in-person event, and you can find tickets on Eventbrite if you're interested, but it sounds really, really interesting. I wish I could go. Do you want to say a few words about it, Dawn?
Oh, well, absolutely. Thank you. Thank you, Kelly, for bringing it up. This is something this work is something that I am most proud of, the level of engagement that Shay and I have had with white women who want to unlearn or learn in regards to being an anti-racist. And this time we have done several Wellness Wednesdays where we've had a platform where white and Black women have gathered together. And we've mixed it up and tried different things where we've had actually Black women speak and the white women listen, and to hear, their stories has been very, very powerful. The last one we had, it was like everyone was able to kind of speak and kind of talk about, where they're at post George Floyd. And now it's evolved to, we have a space where we're outside. So social distancing can be done. It's going to be a lovely kind of Minnesota funky fall day, but the sun will be shining. It's in Minneapolis at Target Station. It's just kind of an organic thing. Shay and I are very new in our business collaboration as a wellness company. And we're bringing wellness and healing in regards to racism. And this is a uncomfortable conversation, but it is a much needed dialogue between Black and white women, because we as a collective can make the heart-centered changes necessary. And so we have panelists. I've got 2 dope white women, 2 dope Black women. We've got some great questions. We've got some, soul food appetizers. We have a gospel choir. It's just going to be hopefully a whole vibe. And it's, again, the intentions are all about healing. It is a safe place for white and Black women to be able to share their experiences. And I am a heart-centered coach, and I lead with love. So no one ever has to be concerned about where they are in this journey, but just being able to show up and have an opportunity to speak, your truth and where you're at, and how we've all been gravely affected by, this trauma here in Minneapolis. So Shay and I are trying to do our part as leaders to, bring healing to something that's very, very difficult in our country right now, period.
Well, I, for one, really appreciate the work you guys are doing, and the 2 Wellness Wednesdays I've been able to attend have been, well, really impactful for me. And it makes me think, and just extremely impactful. And Dawn has agreed. We've started in the village creating a collection of anti-racism resources, which involves not just stuff, but also people. And, you can hire DEI people. And so it's a living document. So anybody can go in and grab that in the learning center in the village. And Dawn has agreed to be one of the contributors in there. So she'll be adding herself and Shay, I hope, and their services and other things. So thank you, Shay, for being a part of all of this and for doing what you're doing.
Yes.
Thank you.
Dawn,
Wonderful. Go ahead.
is the event going to be televised or videoed or anything for those of us in Delaware?
So that's been the $1 million question, that we can't do both. So this time around, and everything has been virtual. Everything that we've done has been virtual. And so we have this whole Target. So Target has collaborated with many Black African-American fitness instructors, and they've been teaching Zumba and CrossFit and just you name it. Target is just doing their part post George Floyd to be able to offer something that's not being used for free for wellness professionals. And my business partner, Shay, is a fitness instructor and so we have just collaborated. So instead of doing fitness, we're going to do wellness, at the event. So again, we're just trying to, bring some joy.
But Renee, do watch the village events, because when Dawn is doing her Wellness Wednesdays, she's been posting those events in the village as well. So keep your eyes open for that stuff.
So thank you. That's a great question. I wish we could do both, but maybe one day.
Maybe one day. All right. Thank you so much for that. Well, thank you, everybody. Great discussion tonight. I appreciate your authenticity, your vulnerability. Jan, we hope we can hear you next time. And have a great week. We'll see you next Tuesday. Look for the song of the week.
Thanks, Sharon.
Bye.
Song of the week.
Have a great week,
you.
everybody.
Bye.
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 Bye.